If you're not automating your follow-ups, you're literally burning money off of your business. Most businesses lose up to 80% of their potential deals just because they don't follow up, or they didn't follow up fast enough, which becomes a problem if you want to scale. If you get more leads, you cannot physically respond and follow up with them. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build the system so that you capture the leads, you send them initial messages, you follow up with them, and hopefully you increase the revenue of the business with this simple system. First, let me show you a dummy database that I built, like a table on Airtable. It's gonna have the client name. It could be the full name of the client, or maybe like it's the name of the business, whatever you want to capture. Then we're gonna have their email. Maybe you want to have their phone number for omni-channel follow-ups and omni-channel communication. But just for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna use email only. Then as a status, we're going to have initial message sent. So that's when we're going to send them, the first kind of point of contact. We're going to say, hey, thank you for, signing up for, submitting the form on Facebook, or maybe they responded to a cold email. Maybe they submitted a form like on Google or something. And after that, we're going to send them the first message with the next CTA. Either we want to book, a meeting with them. We want to send them the next form to submit. Maybe you have like a lead magnet that you want to send to them. That's your first point of contact, right? In this video, I'm just gonna, my CTA will be to book a meeting with them. So we're gonna have initial message sent, meeting booked, first follow-up sent, and second follow-up sent. We're gonna have like a date when they signed up, and also the first point of contact. So that's when we will send them an automatic first message, and you will see why we need this column as well. Next, I want to talk about how you would get leads into this system. I'm not gonna show you the full example of how to automate that, because it goes a little bit beyond the scope of this video. This video is mostly about follow-ups and how to automate them, but automating, inserting leads into a database is pretty simple. This is a dummy. Actually, it's not a dummy flow. It's a copy of a flow that I built for a client. It watches for Facebook lead ad submissions. A lead submits the form. It searches the contact on Airtable. If it exists, it will add them as a kind of duplicate client. Maybe the client submitted or the lead submitted twice. If it's not a duplicate, it will just create a record, and then we will send them the first initial message. So the point of this initial flow is just to add people to Airtable. And again, I'm not just showing how to build this because it's a bit beyond the scope of this video. You would usually also have other flows to add leads. Maybe you have website form submissions. Maybe you do cold outreach. You want to add those leads as well. Maybe you do, like Instagram DMs. Maybe you do X DMs, anything like that. You want to add all of them to one source of truth. And what I'm doing next here, and this is important for the next step, is I'm sending a post request to a webhook. And this is a webhook that we're going to create, and I'm going to show you how to create it, where we will initiate the first sequence, where we will send them the first, the first email, the first SMS, and that sort of stuff. And as the body of this post request, I'm just providing the record ID of this Airtable record initially, like basically the row and the record of this lead. And yeah, that's kind of it. I'm just sending a post request. So now let's build the first initial sequence. So the first thing that you would need to do is just add a webhook here. It should be here on top. Make sure to choose webhook and not the mail hook. You just click add, you click save, and you copy this address. And you can, let me build this out and then explain how you can use it. Then here, as you remember, I mentioned that we're going to pass the record ID. So what we'll do is just use the Airtable module and get a record. Then choose the base where your clients or leads will be. I guess that's a bad name. It should be called leads and not clients. But anyway, you choose the table, and then we would provide the record ID from the webhook. So I would just type in, so we see that 5 is the ID of the module, dot record underscore ID, and pass it in here. So after this, we would get a record and information about this person. So essentially we would get their full name, email, status, signed up, on date, and first point of contact. Actually, we're not get it because it's not added yet. Next, what we will want to do is just send them an email with the with the first CTA. So just go to your Gmail module, send an email. As an email address, we're just going to use the email from the previous module. As the subject, let's just say, hey, first name. And how we're going to do it is, since we don't have a first name column, I will need to split the full name. And here's how we can do it. We're just going to say, hey, let's say do comma. We're going to split the full name by a space. So essentially, if the first name is, let's say, Nikita Andrievsky, which is my name, it's going to split the name by the presence of a space. And then we're just going to grab the first item from this list. So essentially, it will split it into a list of 2 items, Nikita and Andrievsky, which is my last name, and then we're just going to grab the first one. So that's kind of it. So get the first one. And just to apply a little bit of formatting, we're going to apply the start case formula. What this formula is going to do is essentially just convert any capitalization into a start case format, which is the first capital letter, and then everything goes, it's lowercase essentially. So what this message is going to do is just say, hey, and then their first name. And then as the content, we're just gonna say, we're just gonna copy this one. And let's keep it simple. Let's just say that thanks for submitting the form. And then I would love to schedule a call with you to discuss the service in more detail. I'm not trying to optimize the message. You can do it yourself. You can, you probably have better messages that you're using in your business, but yeah, essentially that's just the CTA. And then as my calendar link, I'm going to send my cal.com URL where they can book a meeting. I'm just gonna say next is, you can book a time that suits you best here, and we're gonna add a URL into the word here using an anchor tag. Just put it this way, href is equal to link. This is the link of the calendar link, and then we're going to close the a tag. Essentially what this is going to do is just embed the link into this word, and I'm going to send an example email to see how this looks. Let's just do it right now. I'm gonna send it to myself. Full name is going to be Ski. Let's click OK. And I received this email, and what you can see here, we don't have any spacing. So to add that, let me just go back. But before that, you see that here is embedded with the link. If I click here, it will get the calendar link. So let me just add some formatting so that it looks better. So let's go back to make.com, and to add spacing, I just need to add a BR tag, basically twice for each new line. And if I send it again, if I click here, let's click OK, and if I go back, I should receive this good looking email, right, with the spacing, with the link. And you can add, if you know a little bit of HTML, or if you talk to like ChatGPT or Claude, you can generate some HTML to maybe embed like an image or a video so that it looks a little bit better. Yeah, but you get the point. It's just to send the first initial message. And now finally what we need to do is just update the time when we send this initial message to calculate follow-ups, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. So let's just add an update record module on make.com. You're going to choose your base, you're going to choose your table, and then as the record ID, I'm just providing whatever this module output, and as the status, we're going to put initial message sent, and we'll need this for future automations. So let's just save it. Next automation, or the flow that we'll build, is actually waiting for leads to book a meeting, and then we'll need to update them on Airtable and make sure that the status is also updated, and maybe we'll send them some messages. Maybe you can update your team and yourself that a lead booked a meeting. So let me create another flow. As a way to book meetings, I use cal.com. It's pretty much the same as Calendly, but it just has a bit more functionality. It has a bit more webhooks, so that's why I'm using it, but you're absolutely fine to use Calendly or any other booking software. So once you're on Calendly or cal.com, I'll go to settings and I'll go to webhooks, and here I'll need to add a webhook which is a booking created, and I'll need to just close everything else here. As the event triggers, we're gonna have booking created, and as a subscriber URL, I'm gonna put the URL to the webhook that we created, and just click create webhook. Yeah, then you would open this webhook, and let's just test it. Go back to make.com, right click on this module, click run this module only. It's going to be waiting for a webhook to be submitted. Click here, ping test, and you should receive a 200 status request. This means that everything was good, and on on make.com we just see a dummy payload with some attendees, with the organizer, and some payload as well. So we're gonna grab that output and update it on Airtable. So we need to search for the person who submitted, who booked a call, and we're gonna do it based off of an email. So you might have 20 people who book calls, so you want to update the appropriate person. So for this, I'm gonna search records on Airtable, and our formula will be curly braces email is equal to, hopefully you can see it, I'll zoom in a little bit. Email is equal to organizer, or no, attendees email. And let's just grab the first output here. Yeah, because this payload is a list of multiple items, or like an array of multiple items, and we just want to grab the first one, and we can test it right now. Let's actually create some person on Airtable. Let's put them as John Doe. Just gonna grab their information. Let's say initial message is sent. Let's say they signed up today, and yeah, let's just search for them on Airtable. If I click run this module once, and I provide some information, we're just gonna search for this person, right? And we get one bundle. If everything is good, you should also see one bundle with the record that we just created. And the next step will be to update the record on Airtable with the status and just with the person who booked a meeting, right? Again, click Airtable, update a record, provide the record ID from the search records module, and then as the status, we're just gonna set it to meeting booked, and that's it. Here, one more thing. Here, just right click on this module and set up a filter. We're just gonna do it to make sure that you're not getting any errors if for some reason this module didn't return anything. If it returns anything, if it returns nothing, it will try to update a record using this record ID that we added, and it will not exist because it didn't find any records. And this flow itself will error out, and you just don't want to do it. You just want to put like a small filter, person found question mark. Essentially, if there's more than 0 bundles, which means it found something, the automation will work, and it will proceed to the next module where we'll update the person. Let's again just test it on a dummy record. Let's click run once. Let's go back to cal.com and ping test. And as we see, we got the data. Again, we get this John Doe dummy example. We search for this person, we found them, the person is found here, and we just update this record on Airtable. So if we go back, the status is changed to meeting booked. So that's good. And now we're actually getting to the stage when we will automate follow-ups. And for this, let's just create another workflow, again, with a webhook. This first flow will be a 24-hour follow-up. So this is going to contact the person 24 hours later after the first initial message with the CTA was sent. And if they didn't submit, if they didn't book the meeting, we'll contact them. If they submitted the meeting, if they booked the meeting, we will not contact them. So let's add a webhook. Again, custom webhook, click add, click save, and copy the address to clipboard. And now on Airtable, we need to calculate the amount of hours that has passed since the first point of contact. Let's just say that the first point of contact was like immediate, like 5 minutes after we signed up. And we just need to add hours since first contact. Add the formula, and then just copy and paste this formula that I'm hopefully going to paste in the description of the video. Essentially what we're doing is just calculating the difference in hours between now and the first point of contact. And if the first point of contact is for some reason empty, we're just going to set it to 0, just for some formatting. And now we need to create a view where we'll store leads that have where hours since first contact is over 24 hours. That's what we'll use for the first follow-ups. So just duplicate this view, right click on it, click duplicate, and we're gonna call it 24-hour follow-up. As the filter, just set it to where status is, status is not meeting booked, and hours since first contact is greater than or equal to 24 hours. And let's just also set it to, and hours since first contact is less than 72 hours, because 72 hours is what we're going to have as the second follow-up. So let's put it here. As you see, we have no people currently, but let's just set this guy to yesterday, the first point of contact, and now we see that there's 24 hours. And if we go back to this view, this person should appear. Oh, yeah. If we change the status to initial message sent, we will see this person right here. It means that we need to follow up with them. And what we want to do next is, obviously we don't want to follow up with them manually, so we'll automate that. If you go back to automations on Airtable, you click when a record enters a view. This is going to happen essentially when there's 23 hours after the first contact. When it hits 24 hours and they didn't submit they didn't book a meeting, they're going to enter that 24-hour follow-up view, and it's going to trigger this automation where we will trigger the make automation that will actually follow up with the person. So let's just do it here. When the record enters a view, select the table, which is the first table, 24-hour follow-up, and we're just going to run a script and just copy and paste this code right here. So as the webhook, just go back to make.com, copy the webhook that was created, go back to Airtable, put this right here, and as you see, It highlights it as red because we need to add a variable with the record ID. Add input variable, call it record ID, just like this. Just copy this exact syntax and just put it here, and as the value put the Airtable record ID here, and just click finish editing. Essentially what it's going to do is just trigger this make.com flow, and this will then follow up with the person. So just click finish editing, turn this automation on, and let's then add another module with Airtable where we'll get the record that was submitted to us. Choose here, I think it's like 7 because this is the record of the this is the ID of the module, then dot, and I think it's record ID. That's how it should be, and click OK. So let's just test it right now to make sure that it's working. Click run once, and let's go back to data. Let's change this person point of contact to, let's say, 17, and then let's if you go back here, you will not see them in this view. If we change it back to yesterday, it should be 24. It should get to this view, which should trigger that automation. And if we go back here, yep, as you see, I just waited a couple of seconds. We got the record ID, and then we retrieved the information of that record with this module. We got their email, we got their status, and that sort of stuff. And now we're just gonna send them an email saying like, hey, it's been 24 hours or whatever. Email address, just choose their email. The subject will be, I don't know, something like still interested, comma, and then we're gonna use the same logic with with their first name. I'm gonna put split their full name based on a space, then get the first element, get the first item, and then we're gonna apply the start case formula to get their name formatted. So that's that. Still interested, Nikita, question mark, and then we're going to say, okay, we were looking we were reviewing our booked meetings for this week, and unfortunately we didn't see you there. Are you still interested in taking a call? In booking a call, I guess. If so, here is the link again, and we can embed a link, and we can embed the link again. Just put an anchor tag. href is going to be the kel.com link. Let me just go back and grab it from my account. So discovery call, copy link to event, go back, paste it here, and we're gonna close it with a closing anchor tag. And let's add some spacing as well. As you remember, BR again, and let's say best team Intel scale, for example. And just click OK and save. So essentially what we're going to do, when the record hits that view, it means they need to be followed up with. It's going to trigger this automation, which is going to send them an email with whatever the follow-up wording and phrasing you want to put, and we're just going to send them this link to book the meeting again. And let's just update the record on Airtable just to know that we send them the follow-up. Choose the record ID and update the status to first follow-up sent. And then for what we can do with this information is use it for other filters, and also we can then calculate statistics, how many meetings were booked after the first follow-up, how many meetings were booked after the second follow-up, so that we know how to play around with the phrasing that we put to improve the copy to get more people to book the meeting with. From the logic perspective of the workflow and of the system in general, we're going to send them the follow-up. If they want to book a meeting, they will click the link, they'll book the meeting, and our previous workflow that we built that waits for these meetings to be booked, it's going to trigger, it's going to update the record, and if this person submits, if this person books a meeting, their status is going to be updated to meeting booked, and they're going to disappear from this view, and they're not going to be followed up with again in the next follow-up or in the next other follow-ups that we're going to set. So that's kind of the logic. But if their status was not changed to meeting booked, which means they did not submit the form or did not book a meeting, it means that we want to follow up with them again. So for that case, what we're going to do is just literally copy this view, duplicate view, and we're just going to call it 72-hour follow-up. And again, we'll update the filter to set it to hours since is greater than or equal to 72, and if the status is not meeting booked. That's it. It's literally the same. And if we go back to automations, we can literally copy, we can literally duplicate this view. We can turn it on, and we can also duplicate the flow on make.com. I have it already built here, so let me just go back, and yeah, it's literally the same automation. The only difference is the webhook URL will be different. Let's just copy the address. Let's go back to Airtable. Let's go to run a script, edit the code, and just replace this webhook with the new one. Click finish editing. And if we go back to make.com, and what we want to do now is just update the copy of the email. As an example, what I'm going to put is just say first name, haven't heard from you, right? That's just, I guess that's good enough. And now for this copy, let's just add a little bit of urgency saying, we know you're busy, and we wanted to let you know that we have only two more slots this month. We would love to work with you, so if you are still interested, please book a meeting with the link down below. And let's just send the link as it is. Let's just not embed it. Let's just put it right here. So we're just going to add a little bit of scarcity with 2 more slots, saying that we only have 2 more slots this month, and this is going to be our last follow-up. And finally, we're going to update the record in Airtable with the status going to be where the status is going to be second follow-up sent, and what I see here is I made an error. It should be the record ID, not the message ID. We're going to click save, and the full automation, full system is kind of done. So let's just test it and make sure that everything is working. Let's just enable the flows. So I've enabled all of the automations except for the flow that actually adds the person initially to Airtable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to artificially add a person, because again, working through these flows will be a bit more complicated, because I just want to focus on the follow-ups. I don't want to test this flow, so let's add myself here. Let's put my email address. Please don't spam me. Skill.com. And let's put, let's say that we signed up, let's say yesterday as well. So now let's test the automation that sends the first initial message with the first link. Let me go back to this flow, and I have this HTTP module which will just call the send initial message flow. I have this webhook URL is just a post request, and the body is record ID. So if I click on this module only, I'll need the record ID. And if I go back here, let's call it record ID. Let's add a formula. And this formula is just gonna give you the record, the ID of this record. So just put =, record ID and create field. And now I'm just gonna copy this ID and paste it on mail.com. Click OK. It's gonna trigger that automation that we talked about and that we built at the beginning. Send initial message. If you look at the history, it was successful, so that's good. And we activated the flow. We received the record ID here. We got the person, so that's me, and we sent them an email and updated them on Airtable. So let's go ahead and look here. We see that the initial message was sent. If I go back to Gmail, I should be able to see the email was sent. So that's good. So thanks for submitting the form. I would love to schedule a call with you to discuss the service in more detail. You can book a time that suits you best here. Right now, let's not book the meeting. Let's review our 24-hour follow-ups. So if I go back to make.com, let's say that, oh, actually, you know what we did not add? The first point of contact, we didn't update the information. So let's go back. That's good that we did this, because the automation will not work without this information. So go back to send initial message flow. In the update a record, first point of contact is going to be format date, curly braces now, YYY DD, and then space HH column column SS, and it should be working now. Again, let's test. So let's test the automation again. I'm gonna click run this module only or once, copy the record ID, paste it here, click OK. It should trigger that flow again. If you go back to Airtable, you can see that the first point of contact was updated, and I received an email as well. And now let's actually test sending the follow-up email. So let's test the 24-hour follow-up. Let's artificially change the first point of contact to yesterday. And if I go back to 24-hour follow-up, I can see this message appear here, and I should see it being updated to first follow-up sent. This is actually a mistake, and I'm gonna tell you why. But if you go back to, if I go to Gmail, you'll see why. Essentially, it's gonna send me 2 emails instead of 1. As you see, essentially it sent them twice. Essentially, the problem is that the status should be initial message sent. So the reason why it sends 2 emails, I think basically it triggers the automation twice, and that's probably because of the status. So initially, when the record would appear in this view, it would show as the status would be initial message sent, and then we would trigger the automation, send an email, and update the record, update the status to first follow-up sent. It would update this record, and it would trigger this automation again. So essentially, it would kind of update the record twice, and thus trigger the automation twice as well. To fix that, just set it to status is initial message sent, and it's gonna fix that. And if you go back to 72 follow-up, you're gonna do the same, except the status is first follow-up sent, because the second follow-up will be only sent after the first one. Let's test the 72-hour follow-up. So let's set us to, let's just put us like on Friday or something. Let's say we booked it on the 10th. I'm gonna set it here. We're gonna go back to this view. We see that it's 145 hours, so not 72, and it should update it anytime now, I think, hopefully. Let's just go back to make.com to make sure. Okay, the automation was not triggered. This is my bad. When duplicating the view, I forgot to change this part to 72-hour follow-up. So we're waiting for a record to appear in the second follow-up view. Kind of, that's the issue. So just make sure that the view is correct. And let me go back. Let's reset everything. And now so you see nothing is in the 72 for follow-up view. Let's set it back to like Friday. Let's see that the status is first follow-up sent. It appeared in this view. And now hopefully this will trigger the automation. Let me just go back and see. If I go back to the history, I can see that it was actually triggered successfully, which is good. Go back to make.com. We see that it disappears from this view. And if we see it here, the status was changed to second follow-up sent. And on Gmail, I actually got, an email with the link, with everything. And yeah, these are the two follow-ups that we set. If you want, you can add more follow-ups, like whatever, like 3 days, or like 4 days later, 5 days later, a week later. Maybe you want to add them to a different kind of subsection, sub list, where if they do not submit, like book a meeting, they'll receive like newsletters or monthly emails, marketing emails from you. That's what you can do optionally as well. Let's actually test booking meetings so that we can see the updates and see how the automation works. And now let me try to book a meeting and see how the booking automation works. So let's just pick a time. What does your business do? AI automation agency. Confirm. And it should create the event. Okay, that's good. The event is created. And now if I go back to make.com just to see, okay, we don't even need to go back. We see that the meeting, the status is changed to meeting booked, which means it will not appear in any of the views, even if you see that, let's say I change it to, I don't know, whatever. Like here, there's 169 hours since the first point of contact, but it is not going to appear in any of these views. It's not going to follow up with them, because the status is meeting booked. So that's good. And you can play around with this. You can play around with the automations. You can, send them like welcome messages or follow-up messages for meetings. So like you can capture the date of the event and the time of the event and just send them like follow-ups like, hey, we got a meeting in like 3 hours. We got a meeting in 2 hours. And it's going to increase the no-show-up rate, or I guess it should decrease the no-show-up rate. It will increase the show-up rate on meetings. You can do it with a similar approach as we did with follow-ups. And you can set follow-ups for pretty much anything, for meeting books, for like lead magnets that you want to send to them and want to get some kind of a reply from them. So hopefully now you can implement the system to hopefully increase the revenue of your business with the follow-ups and everything being automatic. You can scale the system not only to 2 follow-ups, but to more follow-ups. You can add different types of follow-ups. And again, hopefully you see some results. If you want me to implement the system for you, just contact me by email or an X. You'll see everything in the description down below. And yeah, that was it. I hope you enjoyed and take care.